Shalom. Welcome to our weekly 10 commandments. We are now in the fourth commandment today. Let's do two verses, Exodus 20, verses 8 and 9. All right, so the Hebrew is Zakor et Yom, remember the day. Okay, so Zakor is, I believe, an infinitive absolute. There are two kinds of infinitives in Hebrew, and one of them is called an infinitive absolute. The difference between the infinitive absolute and the infinitive construct is the infinitive construct can be used with prepositions and can have possessive suffixes and things like that. It's a lot more flexible. The infinitive absolute just stands on its own. I mean, you can have a vav on the front and it just kind of stands. I'm tempted to translate it to remember the day of the Sabbath. But of course, that's not the way we're used to it. And I think it is meant with an imperatival command sense to it. But it is interesting. It's different from the previous commands, isn't it, in its form? So the other ones were like jussives, if I remember. I don't remember all of them, but I think they tended to be jussives, so forth. So so far. So it's a different form. Remember, let's put it, Zakar. Remember et Yom, the day of. Now, Yom, I'm guessing from the context, is in construct. There's no way to know. If something's in construct in Hebrew, that means you put the word of after it. It looks exactly the same as the day when it's absolute. So you have absolute and you have construct. However, the reason for that is it has a historically long vowel in the middle. That Holam Vav, it is a really, really long vowel. And by that, I don't mean how it's pronounced. I just mean it's been long for centuries by the time it's used in this text. Historically long vowels they're strong. They don't get weak. When you run out of breath, they don't. There's a tendency to the way the vowels work in Hebrew has to do with how much breath you're supposed to have, like how far away. Oh, the syllabus where I put the stress is way far away, and so I just have to save my breath to get there. And so what that causes it to do is when you have syllables that are far away from the accent, they lose their strength in the way of Nacho Libre. I lost my strength. Anyway, they go short. And so, but historically long vowels don't let you go short. A historically long vowel, a vowel that's been long for a very long time in the history of the Hebrew language, is going to stay long. And so even though Yom is in construct here, it has not reduced. And of course, when it's in construct, it's being connected to the word that comes after it. And therefore you're far away from the accent. You lose your breath. And again, I was trying to do Nacho Libre, that didn't quite come off, sorry. But anyway, so the day of HaShabbat, so the day of the Sabbath. Hey Patak doubling is the, and then Shabbat is Sabbath. So remember the day of the Sabbath, which is of course the seventh day, right? From sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. For a long time, I assumed the Sabbath was Sunday. Well, the Sabbath is never equated with Sunday. Nowhere in the Bible is the Sabbath equated with Sunday. I'm not trying to say that we should be Seventh-day Adventists or Seventh-day Baptists. Oh, we should start worshiping on Saturday. I'm not saying that at all, because the New Testament, they worshiped on Sunday, the Lord's Day, the day of the resurrection. And Paul basically says in Romans 14 and Colossians 2 that Gentile Christians, it's a matter of their own conscience as to whether they observe the Jewish Sabbath. Colossians 2, don't let anybody judge you with regard to a Sabbath. He's basically saying it's up to the conscience of a Gentile as to whether or not they observe the Jewish Sabbath. Very interesting. But anyway, remember the day of the Sabbath. L'kadsho, to its holiness. Kadash is holy, holiness. And then this is actually this might be an infinitive construct. No, it's not an infinitive construct. It's a noun. Forgive me. So we have a lamed on the front, to, with regard to, perhaps. We have a holam vav on the end, which is his literally, but we'll go with its because holiness is not, or the Sabbath is not a person. So to its holiness. So remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy is the way it's, in the King James, as I recall. But we're basically saying set apart that time to God. And so holiness in the Old Testament definitely has a sense of being set apart to God. I would argue, and I really don't think this is very debatable, but everything's debatable, right? That has to do with it's belonging to God. Holiness is not primarily about moral purity in the Old Testament. I think that's anachronistic. It does have to do, there is a purity that is to be associated with, but it's not necessarily what we would call a moral purity, because, and I saw somebody got this wrong somewhere. They did consider the temple prostitutes of pagan gods were considered holy to that god. Do you understand? So our category of thinking of holiness in relation to morality is it is more of a New Testament way of viewing holiness than it is an Old Testament way, in my interpretive opinion. The Sabbath is to be set apart to God. It's God's day, and that makes it special. That means you behave differently on the Sabbath than you do on the other days. And of course, we will go on in the verses that follow to explain exactly how that set apartness works. So here is a clarification in verse 9. Sheshet Yamim, 7 of the days, or 6 of the days, sorry. I'm one off. Hold that thought. There we have it. Sheshet, 6 of, it's construct, so it's closely linked to the word that follows it, which is the plural of day. So if yom is the singular, then yamim is the plural. Hirik yod mem is the masculine plural absolute ending. 6 of days you will serve. Ta'avod. The tav on the front makes it second masculine singular, but also applies to women. Second masculine singular imperfect. Avad, to serve. 6 of days you will serve. Va'asita, and you will do kol malakteka, your work. Okay, so 6 of days, already did that. You will serve, and you will do. Now, the vav is and. Asita is not imperfect. Imperfect puts letters on the front like a tav. The perfect puts letters on the end. So in the perfect tense, a ta is again a second masculine singular. It's interesting. Here we've got an imperfect, and here we've got a perfect. And a lot of times in beginning Hebrew, they tell you to translate a perfect as, and you did all your work. But that doesn't make any sense here. The old timers used to refer to this as a converted perfect. The idea was that if you have kind of a train of thought going, that sometimes what sets the time, here's the way the old timers used to say. I'm saying old timers because grammar has a science to it as well, and grammarians have advanced in their understanding of these things. I would say that in general, imperfect has more of a sense of incompleteness, and perfect more a sense of completeness. However, I'm just going to give you the Ken Shank. Here's how I process this. We have a train of thought here, and the train of thought here is translated in English, you will serve. 6 days you will serve, because we're talking about how you're going to behave. And then it doesn't make any sense in the train of thought to switch to the past from the future. Although really this is more of a command. And so I'm going to ignore the perfect here and simply translate it the same way that I translated the leadoff hitter in this series, okay? Again, I'm quite sure that an expert on Hebrew could give you a more sophisticated sense of what's going on here. I'm just explaining a problem you didn't know existed which is, why are you translating this perfect the same way you're translating this imperfect? And it's because it's the train of thought. This is the way the train of thought seems to go. Okay, so 6 of days you will serve, and you will do kol, all, malak teka. The accent is often on the second to last syllable when you have a pronominal suffix or a no, this is a possessive suffix, right? Okay, so, and you can see from the accent, it's called a saluk right here. That's a saluk accent. So second masculine singular your, again, also applies to women. Malak teka. Yeah, so this is a long word, but it has the sense of your work, okay? Your labors. All right. Well, this has been the beginning of the fourth commandment. We have more to come on the fourth commandment next week, Lord willing, in verse 10.